Well, you just think that I was going to back off on this, but I'm not yet. You see, because I know better. All right. Where am I at? This is me down here. I'm just a square today. Things are always changing. Well, listen, only because I haven't really gotten to this thing and cleaned it up. I haven't given you a really good uh, lesson to this, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now because I learned of some pretty cool stuff and I wanted to bring it to your attention. Not that it means anything, but most people following end of time situations are, let's see if this is going to work for me, are, let's just do this one. All right. Is it going to work? Oh, yeah, it is. Check it out. End of time references. Every end of time story that I have reported on my channel is this idea of going within yourself and changing your mind, bringing about this balanced mind. No one ever gets off Earth like Dolores, whatever her name is, the one with the great event. It's the same idea. She thinks that she's gone through all these people's minds, and this is her outcome of what the great event is. Just like it is the end of times. They're all the end of time stories. Every one of these have been the end of time story. Hopi Prophecy Rock is no different. And it centers around 4. The 4 is changing from one side of the mind to the other side of the mind. That's what we teach. That's what I show up with, what shows up all the time. What I wanted to show you and to bring into your mind is this is the real rock here. And this was about 8 or 9 years ago. And this elder here, this guy, what's his name? Grandfather, Martin, what's his name? Gashweseoma, all right, whatever, is doing his best to understand or to describe what it's about. And I'm going to use this little thing here. Can you see it? Maybe you can see it working on. But here's the master down here. Look at, there's a bow right here, and there is an arrow in his hand. And for whatever reason, it's just a man with a head, and he has a little something coming out of his head. So he has a head, and it has a little feather. This is the way it works, and he looks like he's kneeling down, and he's got his hand down here. We've got an arrow, and up here we have a bow. That's a sure sign of somebody getting ready to meditate. All right. A lot of these stories about hunting, whether it be Indian or Australian or something like that, this is the same idea. Now, this is the reed. This is coming also from his hand from earth. So this is generally the idea of meditation. This is the reed is, that's usually the idea of what's connecting heaven and earth. And it's a piece of grass. In this situation, it's reeds, all right? So what we also have a circle down here, which makes me think of Saturn. I make a circle. And there's also a cross up in here. And this is the idea of the crossing, the idea, that this is religion. He starts off this entire thing saying that the Christians made this, that this wasn't something that he found, that the Christians made this, all right? And so I think that the Christians may have found it and brought it to their attention and then told them what they thought it meant. But in reality, what we see here is we have some guy that they call as some master of some kind. He's only got one heart, and he's pointing out that these guys have two sides. So this is supposed to represent 2 hearts with the head on the top of it, right? And they're all in unison because they're all holding hands, all right? and there are three chiefs, and they're bad chiefs. And then there's one over here on this end, but this one here, he has got one heart. This is what he points out, is that it only has one heart with a head on it. The only thing is it has two. It has another side over here. It has another arm, and what is chiseled off the top of this is a triangle. Now, in most every one of these stories that I've heard from, even the one that I've reported on, like 3-4 different stories, this line here changes in all of their drawings, and mine's the only one that stays the same. That line separates what goes on between the upper floor and the downstairs floor, because all of these are the same. These are the three guys that are upstairs that supposedly have double hearts. But there's this line that separates these guys, and what we get out of this is these 4 mountains, or 4 lines, and that represents the mountain, the east. All right, that's how my stories go, and I'm sticking with it. You have the 3 that are evil. Those are, if I were to tell the story of, but my favorite, of course, is the Christopher story, of Saint Christopher, where he followed. This one here would be when he was first born. He followed the king. He followed the king, and when he found that the king had a weakness to the devil, then he followed the devil. The second one. When he found that the devil had a weakness and found that that was Jesus, then he left this one and he went on to find Jesus. The third one in our body is the human being. It's you. It's the physical side. And all through this, he is looking and looking until he finally comes to a little place beside a river. This little place that's beside the river. This is the 6th chakra in conversation. This is the limit. And then there's a water level. This is because the water starts from here on. And he comes to this place. This is his physical self. He says, I'm ready. I'm going to help God. I want to do it. And the sage that runs this household says, he goes, you're going to have to get rid of that sword. That ain't going to be, you're not going to need that here. And so the sage would go on to tell him that you got to learn how to meditate. That's the best way to learn to serve God right now. Meditate. He says, oh, please, don't make me do that. Come on, you got to give me something else to do. I got all this strength. I've got all this going down. Certainly there's another way to serve God that will use the whole of me. And so he thought about it and he says, you know what? You can ferry people across this back and forth this water here. They're coming at all times and days and all nights. But anyways, this is where you wind up on that third. And it takes a long time to get to number 3. It takes a long time on this. This is because you're coming to serve the Lord. And so in this instance, all you're doing is you're trying to better yourself when you're in this situation. This is when you're doing the works. Then this line shows up in the painting. This is where the real line is. This is the 6th chakra. This is as far as most people get on this earth. But when you get over onto the other side, he says, this guy's only got one heart. He's happy. He says he compares him to this guy down here. Well, of course, because they're the same guy. All of these are the same person. But this is the 4. It's the travel. It's the 40 days and 40 nights. It's the change. It's how far the water has to get rid of and destroy the lower earth or lower mind. And that's what these 2 zeros are here, these 2 O's. These are the 2. This is what lies underneath those 3 guys that have to be changed. And that is going to be your outside self. You have to devour this monster, the lion, the monster that you are. You are the demon. You, the 666. You got to get rid of him because you're bringing mother on. That's this idea that this down triangle here. This is the down triangle. Is the answer from God, from above. This is where the stars in the sky fall to earth, the head, to your mind. Golgotha. This is where all this stuff is happening, is in the skull. It's where all this is happening. And of course, we sat down and we've set up our own. So we are the Star of David, all this in the city of David, in the city of David, a star, not a star, a child is born. So a star is born, whatever, and say, because that's representing this third part on here, this third part, that's the star. Remember, sun, moon, star, and heaven. And this is when you get the two things here. You get this is a feather sticking out of this little triangle thing. This is what it takes to be enlightened, to get the feather in your head all together. All right, and then you're attached. This is going to represent going inside. And this lower level, he says many times that this is the path that we're supposed to go on, because it goes on and on and on and on. And it has a half of one here, and he calls this here the gourd. This one here is the purification. And yes, it is. This is the purification. This is after you have made it over on, after this line here. And let me tell you, and all these other ones, that line is everywhere else. It's at the end here. It ruins what is written here. It takes away what's truth. All right. So we get this final third right here. This is the intervention. This is the Lord's day. This is the seventh chakra. This is that final end of times for you. And it's a great purification, because all of this evil that was in you is gone now. It's the whole new you. You've got your answer from God. You and God, everyone is the three, this triangle thing, they're all together now in one. So this is what's interesting about this, and this is just the great purification, the fire from heaven coming down on earth. And that's mother. Fire is the higher conscious coming down, which is the frequency of delta. All right, so it's not like something freaky, something crazy going on. And there's this wonderful thing here that means corn. It's a staff of life. This idea of you'll live on forever and ever. We got an old man holding a cane, and one of these guys talks that he's got some kind of a digging stick, which is an auger. Or, in a lot of ways, this is that idea that we're meant to till the land. The whole point of these stories, it all works up that Jesus, or God Himself, is a husbandman, which means He's a farmer, and His job is to plant seeds. And in these stories, God wants us to set His people free, and His people are the seeds inside of us, our souls. And we have to learn how to do these things in order to set Him free. And then He's free. He's free. Now you're free. This is what makes kings and princes. These are the guys that bring in the peace. These are the guys that find it within themselves, and then they bring it to the outside world. It's absolutely beautiful. This is so much a part of what I teach. This is so much a part of what God looks from us. And it's the outside way of thinking that ruins it for everyone else. And these guys, I'm telling you, the poor old man, he almost has it, okay? But it's simpler than that. This is a meditation process. It's no different than something in the Valley of the Dead. The stories of the Valleys of the Dead, they're talking about meditation. Same exact thing. All right, well, anyways, guys, I hope you're having a good one. I will be back to you sooner than later. All right? I promise. Take care of yourselves. See if I got this.